Hello guys, it's One Piece Day again. Welcome to my channel, and let's talk about One Piece manga chapter 1066, The Will of Ohara. In the previous chapter, Lilith finally shows her true colors. She's been giving Frankie and the others a tour in order to lure them into a trap. She leads the pirates to a room where their Jimmy Seraphim is waiting. The Seraphim immediately assaults the Straw Hats, starting with Nami. Seeing their navigator gets undeservedly hit, the other Straw Hats start fighting back. But just as Frankie uses his radical beam, one of the Dr. Vegapunks orders the Jimmy Seraphim to retreat. It is also then that Shaka the Good reveals himself to the Straw Hat pirates. Shaka confirms that he and the other 5 satellites are Dr. Vegapunk. But before anything else, please click the bell, like, share, and subscribe to my channel, AnimeJack. Thank you. The title of One Piece Chapter 1066 is The Will of Ohara, featuring Germas and Caesar on the cover returning to the Germa Kingdom. One Piece Chapter 1066 begins with the Straw Hats questioning Vegapunk Shaka's claims from the previous issue concerning Egghead Island's technology. Everybody is in disbelief that the futuristic island could actually be based on technology from the distant past. Shaka clarifies that this is just conjecture, before discussing a passionate archaeologist he once knew that risked his life to shed light on a certain ancient kingdom. He continues, saying that a certain site of an archaeological dig saw machinery excavated which dated back to the same era as the ancient kingdom. Robin asks him to confirm that he's saying machinery was created during the Void Century, but Shaka turns the question on her. He explains to those confused, his opinion that the Oharan genocide may have been caused by Ohara uncovering details of the kingdom's existence. Shaka shares his theory that the Void Century was essentially a 100-year war, one fought between 20 nations which would form the world government and the ancient kingdom. He ends by theorizing that the ancient kingdom was erased from history to ensure its ideas wouldn't live on, shocking all present, especially Sanji, who correctly surmises that all who know of this are eventually eliminated. The Straw Hats complain and try to forget what they just heard, but Shaka clarifies it's just a theory. He then asks Robin that if he's right, then the world government's actions that day would be tantamount to a confirmation. She asks why he's asking about this, sharing that the scholars there did devise a theory after extensive research, before questioning how someone as high up as him doesn't already know. Shaka claims that government affiliation makes no difference, and he's left in the dark to the point where bringing it up would mean death. Usopp briefly interjects to complain, as Robin questions how he knows this since the books and literature on Ohara were destroyed. However, Shaka claims that the will of Ohara lives on, sharing that he visited Ohara a few months after the Buster Call. He went to pay tribute to Professor Clover, saying he wanted to leave flowers for him. Robin asks how he knew Clover, prompting Shaka to explain that his obsession with the Void Century fueled an adventurous lifestyle at one point. He claims Clover searched the world over for texts, being imprisoned at least 10 times and becoming the world's most famous archaeologist in the process. Shaka says that Ohara eventually became a haven for scholars, archaeology, and knowledge, but it was this coming together of talented minds which led to Ohara's destruction. Shaka shares that he, as the true Dr. Vegapunk, was speechless upon seeing the tree of knowledge burned to cinders. However, he shares that the lake at the island's center was filled with books and resources. He shares his assumption that it was the work of the scholars, who in their final moments chose to prioritize sharing their knowledge with the future. Shaka continues to theorize that any foot soldier marines who saw them didn't realize what they were, resulting on Ohara's triumph and causing Vegapunk to cry ceaselessly. Robin beginning to remember her mother, Nico Alvia, who didn't go with her because she still had something to do. An abridged version of her flashback continues playing, this time emphasizing the scholars saving the books and reference materials and Alvia sacrificing herself at the time for Robin's future. In ends Robin's flashback shortly thereafter, as she is seen crying contemporarily. While Sanji and company begin getting angry, Robin confirms Shaka's suspicions, asking where the books from the lake are currently. He shares that he wanted to take them back to Punk Hazard, but recognized it was too risky. Then sees a young Dr. Vegapunk arriving at Ohara several months after the Buster call, where he sees giants pulling the books out of the lake. Vegapunk questions if they know their worth and what he should do, when none other than Monkey D. Dragon approaches, telling Vegapunk it's been a while. The two sharing that they knew Professor Clover. Dr. Vegapunk monologues about how Clover trying to destroy the world is blatant propaganda, while Dragon says he spoke with the giants and Vegapunk shouldn't be worried. They're apparently from Elbaf, and are aware of the book's value, and are led by giant wrapped in bandages. The bandaged giant says that Ohara sacrificed itself for the treasures that are their books, and couldn't let them be erased from history. Dragon expresses concern after seeing a government lackey like Vegapunk around, followed by the joy that the giants are retrieving the books. It's then revealed that Dragon once asked Vegapunk to join his group, before teasing his friend for becoming a world government lapdog. Vegapunk responds that his mind would be wasted since it lacks funding and resources. Dragon agrees, calling his apparently old friend as blunt as ever. Vegapunk also elaborates on his choices here, essentially saying that the world government is a large organization who can be reasoned with, especially in the Navy. He ends by telling Dragon to not lose sight of the end goal, who responds by saying that this latest action by the world government is too much. He calls the Oharans being wiped out for questioning authorities a farce, saying he'll raise an army that will fight them head-on. Vegapunk questions this, saying he thought Dragon hated war, as ends the flashback with Dragon promising to change the world. Meanwhile, in the present, Shaka explains that within a year after that, Dragon, Emporio Ivankov, and Bartholomew Kuma founded the Revolutionary Army. Each of the Straw Hats comments on one aspect of the story that relates to them, as Shaka continues to say that his curiosity led him to visit Elbaf, where the books were safely kept. He was allowed to reach every one of them, taking everything Ohara uncovered about the world and memorizing it. A bandaged Jaguar D. Sol, with a silhouetted face, can be seen here talking to Vegapunk in what appears to be a library of Oharan books. Shaka claims that everything from Ohara is in his head, and he has since continued their research for them. Robin asks if the giant captain is called Sol, with Vegapunk responding that he's in hiding now and can't confirm anything. However, Robin takes this as a confirmation, thanking Shaka, calling him Dr. Vegapunk here, for not letting Ohara's sacrifice be in vain. He simply responds that progressing to every field of thought possible is in his nature as a scholar. Suddenly, the Straw Hat's shoes begin moving on their own. Shaka explains he can't release them just yet, asking them to follow him as there's something he wants to show them. Then shifts back to Luffy's group, which is still by the giant robot they found in previous issues. Chopper and Luffy can't find a way to get in the robot, surmising that it's the type that moves on its own. They begin calling it names and special commands, calling it Robonishuk and Robo King, as Bonnie tells them there's no way it moves. However, a loud sound is heard coming from the robot shortly after, with Luffy thinking the robot will explode. Suddenly, someone is heard asking to be saved, saying that space-time bent mid-warp and got them stuck. Luffy goes to help the mysterious stranger, as Bonnie seemingly recognizes him. Simultaneously, the stranger recognizes Luffy as Dragon's son, saying he knew he'd come here one day and congratulating him on making it here. He then turns his attention to Bonnie, saying she's gotten big since he last saw her. Chopper and Luffy then ask the man how he's floating, who in turn shows them the function on their shoes which will allow them to float too. However, the trio ends up flying too high, needing to be saved once more as officially introduces the real Dr. Vegapunk. That's all for today, Animaniacs. Thanks for watching. See you again next time for another One Piece episode. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for weekly updates.